Welcome back to Bookish Dives.
Oh, yeah.
This time, we're taking a deep dive into Mitch Albom's The 5 People You Meet in Heaven.
Yeah.
And you've already finished this one, so we're going straight past the surface and into the really good stuff.
I think you'll find this deep dive especially interesting.
Yeah.
It's one of those books that reveals more with each reading.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so for anyone who might need a quick refresher, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven follows Eddie, a maintenance man at Ruby Pier, an amusement park.
Okay.
He dies, saving a little girl from a tragic accident.
But death isn't the end for Eddie.
Right.
It's actually the beginning of a journey through heaven where he encounters 5 people who had a profound impact on his life.
Exactly. And it's not just a random selection of folks.
Right.
Each person embodies a lesson Eddie needed to learn, even if he wasn't aware of it during his time on Earth.
What's fascinating is how Albom structures the story. He weaves these heavenly encounters with flashbacks to key moments in Eddie's life, slowly revealing the interconnectedness of his experiences.
It's like each encounter peels back another layer of Eddie, showing how these seemingly ordinary interactions shaped who he became.
Right, and it makes you think about your own life, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All those chance encounters, the people who cross your path, maybe there's a deeper meaning there waiting to be understood.
Now, the first person Eddie meets is the Blue Man, a sideshow performer he remembers from his childhood.
Yeah.
Remember him? Bit mysterious, kind of tragic.
The Blue Man teaches Eddie that every life has value and that we are all interconnected, even in ways we might not realize.
Right.
He challenges Eddie's preconceived notions about people who are different, who don't fit in.
Their encounter forces Eddie to confront a tragic event from his childhood.
Yeah.
He learns that unknowingly he played a role in the Blue Man's death. Can you imagine carrying that kind of guilt around?
It's a powerful lesson in unintended consequences.
Right.
It shows how our actions, even as children, can have ripple effects that we may never fully comprehend.
And then Eddie meets his old captain from the war, a figure who represents sacrifice and the complexities of wartime choices.
Yeah.
The setting shifts dramatically here, right?
Yeah.
We go from the peacefulness of heaven to the gritty reality of the Philippines during the war.
This is where Albom really dives into the psychological toll of war, the scars it leaves behind on the people who fight those battles.
We see Eddie grappling with the trauma of his wartime experiences, particularly the death of his friend Rebozo.
Right.
It's clear he carries a lot of guilt and unanswered questions about what happened over there.
And the captain, through a shocking revelation,
Yeah.
forces Eddie to confront that guilt head-on.
Okay.
He reveals that he was the one who shot Eddie during their escape from the mine.
That moment when Eddie realizes his own captain, the man he trusted with his life,
Right.
was the one who shot him. What a powerful twist.
Yeah.
But there was a reason for it, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It was a desperate act of sacrifice to save Eddie's life.
Mm-hmm.
The captain embodies the idea that true leadership often involves making tough decisions,
Yep.
even if those decisions are painful or misunderstood.
He also illustrates the idea that true sacrifice often goes unrecognized.
Right.
He could have told Eddie the truth, cleared his conscience, but he chose to let Eddie resent him to carry that burden alone.
Wow.
That's true selflessness.
It makes you wonder what sacrifices have others made for you that you might not even be aware of.
Gives you chills, doesn't
And
it?
it really does.
Okay, so Eddie's had these incredibly profound encounters with the Blue Man and the captain. He's starting to see how interconnected life really is, how even small actions can have big consequences. But his journey isn't over yet.
It isn't.
He's got 3 more people to meet,
He does.
and the next person Eddie meets takes him to a place that's both familiar and full of surprising revelations. Ruby Pier only. It's not the bustling amusement park he knew. It's a quieter, almost nostalgic version of the pier.
A quieter
Yeah, I remember that scene. It's like stepping back in time with this vintage diner perched high on a hill overlooking the pier. Inside, he finds Ruby, the woman the pier was named after.
What's interesting here is that Ruby and Eddie never met in life.
Really?
She existed before his time, and yet she holds the key to understanding some of the most painful parts of his past,
Okay.
particularly his relationship with his father.
This is where the book really dives into the theme of legacy. Ruby's story helps Eddie see how the choices we make, even seemingly insignificant ones, can have a lasting impact on generations to come.
Huge impact.
She shares the story of her husband Emil and the dream they shared of building Ruby Pier. And we learn about the devastating fire that destroyed the original pier.
Right.
It's a story about loss, grief, and the weight of responsibility.
Heavy stuff.
And here's where it gets personal for Eddie Ruby. Ruby reveals that his father, the man he always perceived as cold and distant,
Yeah.
was actually a hero that night. He saved Emil from the fire, risking his own life in the process.
A real hero.
It's a pivotal moment for Eddie because it forces him to reevaluate everything he thought he knew about his father.
Wow.
He begins to understand that the man's silence and emotional detachment weren't intentional acts of cruelty.
I see.
They were the consequences of a trauma he never addressed.
So it's like Ruby gives Eddie permission to forgive his father, to
Right.
see him not as a symbol of disappointment, but as a flawed human being who did the best he could with the pain he carried.
And Ruby also reveals a secret about Eddie's father's death, a secret that explains why he went to the pier that day,
Okay.
sick as he was.
He was trying to find Nikki Shea,
Right?
a coworker who had made advances toward Eddie's mother years earlier. The incident had haunted Eddie's father, creating a rift between him and his wife.
It's a reminder that unspoken pain and unresolved conflict can poison relationships,
Absolutely.
sometimes for generations.
And it circles back to the importance of forgiveness and open communication.
So much of what Eddie learns from these encounters is about letting go of anger, resentment, and guilt. It's about finding peace with the past and understanding that every life, every choice has a ripple effect that extends beyond what we can see.
Exactly. And it's not just about learning from the past.
Right.
It's about applying those lessons to the present, to the relationships we have now.
But Eddie's journey isn't over yet. There are still 2 more people waiting for him, and the next one brings him face to face with the deepest love he's ever known.
He finds himself at a series of wedding receptions, each one representing a different stage of his life with Marguerite,
Oh, wow.
his beloved wife.
This encounter is so incredibly moving because it allows Eddie to relive those precious moments with Marguerite.
Yes.
They dance, they laugh, they share memories. It's like a glimpse into the profound connection they shared.
Albom really captures the enduring power of love in this scene.
Yeah.
It shows that even death can't extinguish the bond between 2 souls who truly loved each other.
But it's not all sunshine and roses. Marguerite also challenges Eddie to confront the pain of her loss,
Right.
the anger and confusion he's held on to for so long.
She helps him understand that her death, though tragic, allowed him to live a longer life.
Okay.
A life filled with experiences he wouldn't have had if she had stayed. It's a difficult concept to grasp,
It is.
but ultimately it's a message of acceptance.
It's about finding peace with the natural order of things, even when that order seems cruel or unfair.
Marguerite teaches Eddie about the transformative power of grief.
Right.
How it can reshape us, break us open, and ultimately lead us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world.
It's such a beautiful and heartbreaking encounter. But there's still one more person. Eddie needs to meet someone who holds the answer to the question that has haunted him since his death. Did he save the little girl at the pier?
The 5th and final person Eddie meets will change his understanding of heaven and his place in the grand tapestry of life.
Okay, but before we get to that, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far. What stands out to you most about Eddie's journey through heaven?
So Eddie's journey has been full of surprises, hasn't it? And now we're at the final encounter. He's learned so much already.
Yeah, he really has. But he's still got that question,
About the little girl.
Did he save her? He needs that answer.
And this encounter takes him to a very different setting.
Yeah, it does.
A lush tropical paradise, almost like a dream.
It really is. And in this peaceful place, Eddie meets Tala.
The 5th person.
Right, the 5th person. And this is the one he doesn't recognize.
The one with the most surprising connection.
And it turns out Tala was in that burning hut during the war.
The one the captain said was empty.
And Eddie learns that he accidentally caused her death.
It all comes full circle.
It really does. All those years he carried that guilt.
And Tala, in her innocence,
Yeah.
offers him forgiveness.
That's incredible. It's like a huge weight lifted off of him. But what about the little girl at the pier?
Did he save her?
Right? That's what he needs to know.
Tala reveals that she was the one who guided Eddie to heaven.
So he didn't save the girl on the ride.
No.
His sacrifice was for Tala,
It seems that way. He pushed her out of the way of the falling debris.
giving her a chance to live.
A chance she wouldn't have had otherwise.
Like everything is connected.
in ways we can't even imagine.
Eddie saved Tala, giving back the life he took from her years ago.
It's a powerful realization for him.
It changes his whole understanding of his life and death.
And through Tala's revelation, Eddie finds peace. He understands that every life has purpose.
And it's not always about grand gestures,
Sometimes it's the small acts of kindness,
the everyday things.
the love we give.
And finally, Eddie is reunited with Marguerite on the Ferris wheel,
A beautiful ending.
a symbol of their love and the joy they shared.
The 5 people you meet in heaven makes you think about your own life,
It really does.
your choices, and the impact you have on others.
It's a book that stays with you.
And I think we can all learn from Ellie's journey.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, keep exploring.